My guest joining me this morning on the horizon, Sandra Owusu Gyamfi, Madam Red today, and Thomas Jima. You're both researchers at the Ghana Wildlife Society. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I trust you're all doing well today.
Good, thank you.
Great. We're just about to begin our conversation, and today the focus of our conversation is to talk about the work of the Ghana Wildlife Society in recognition of World Environment Day. We want to know how poor management of plastics is not only affecting us but the wildlife around, and I guess I've just introduced to you. So before we begin our conversation though, time to bring you our science news, all the things that are happening in the world of science this morning right here on Morning Star.
With 135 schools in the running, the Nationals of the National Science and Math Quiz was launched yesterday at the British Council. In the 25 years of the competition, no girls' senior high school has won it. But that could change this year as schools like the Holy Child Senior High School, Abri Girls and Wesley Girls have been putting forth great performances in the qualifiers. President of the Academic City College, Dr. Fred McBagunuri, has said that the college has invested about $25 million in facilities for its new campus at Harcho. The college, which boasts of some of sub-Saharan Africa's best modern workshops and laboratories, opens in September and is focused on ensuring students' foundational learning and development in technology, engineering and entrepreneurship.
Okay, so that's the science news for today, and I think the top of the pile will be the start of the National Science and Math Quiz that we've all grown in love with over the years. So let's see how that plays out in the coming days. But once again, thank you very much for joining me this morning for this all-important conversation. So we're talking about wildlife this morning. My guest Sandra Owusu Gyamfi and Thomas Jima. Okay, Gyamfi and Jima. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, on the show. Let me begin with you, Sandy. Tell me about the Ghana Wildlife Society. What exactly do you do?
Okay, thank you, and good morning to your listeners. So Ghana Wildlife Society is one of, if not possibly the oldest non-governmental organization in the country. We've been operational since the 1970s, and what we are actually interested in is conserving wildlife, and our conservation activities are backed by research. And so we are from the research department from Ghana Wildlife Society, and some of the activities we conduct cut across the energy sector, the extraction industry, construction industries. So basically whatever activities human beings are undertaking that could be potentially impacting on wildlife, and also looking at climate change and any other activities you can think of.
And in these many years of your existence, what have been some of the key benchmarks that you have been able to put through so far?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'll talk of the obvious ones that we might all know. That is the move to ban the exploitation of the grey parrot. So many years time, GWS through these wildlife clubs and schools advocated for the need to ban the exploitation of this all-important bird, and now, even so many years after it's banned, now it's termed as a critically endangered species, or it's endangered species, with the recent research showing that we have about less than 500 pairs in the country.
Wow.
So this shows how important the ban at that time really was.
Okay.
So I will talk just about this.
About that one. That's fine. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for letting us know some of the great things you've been doing so far. So yesterday was World Environment Day. What do we do to mark this day in Ghana?
Oh, there were lots of activities. Let me take the opportunity to talk about what we did yesterday. So we collaborated with the Australian High Commission, the US Embassy, and USAID, and the goal for our observation of World Environment Day yesterday was sustainable strategies to beat plastics in the country. So it went very well. We had quite a number of representatives from different industries and other stakeholders. and we had a panel discussion, and that was for the adults session, and we also had a session for children where we trained them how to turn plastics, everyday plastics, into other forms for different uses. But let me talk a little bit about the adult session where we had a panel discussion. So we looked at various ways of tackling plastic pollution, and also looked at what can be done aside in terms of policies when it comes to tackling plastic pollution in the country.
A little I'll add to the success of the program. We were privileged to have the Honorable Minister for Water and Sanitation.
Yes.
We also saw the U.S. ambassador to the U.S., and then we also had the Australian ambassador. And we also have the people from the Ministry of Environment and so many dignitaries.
Made it to the event.
Sure.
Okay, so how huge a problem, and I'm going to ask this because I know there's not a lot of talk about it, how huge a problem is single-use plastics in Ghana?
If you should put it on give it a scale, it's huge. It's a big problem. I think it's one of the few innovative things human beings were able to generate or create, but we are not able to actually manage it. It's a problem in Ghana, and it's a problem globally. It's projected by 2050 we will be catching plastics from the ocean, not fish. And as of now,
20 what?
By 2050.
I see.
We will be catching plastics, not fish, from the ocean, because most of the plastics that we use on land get washed into the oceans, and currently we have microplastics in the ocean, and wild animals are feeding on some of these plastics in the oceans.
I see.
A little to add to what he said is the biggest challenge is the nanoplastics. Those are very tiny plastics that can get to the system of human beings without you even knowing you've ingested and it has gotten into your blood system. And what this can do, we can all imagine. Getting the plastic running through your blood system where it can clog somewhere, increasing the risk of cardiovascular diseases and many other things that we can all think of.
Okay, so if we know this huge effect of plastics in our country today, for you as a wildlife society, are you satisfied with the rhetoric over the years about we were going to do something about that as a nation? In fact, if I remember correctly, I think in late 2015 or early 2016, the then Minister for Science and Technology, Mahama Ayariga, spoke about a policy to reduce the use of plastics in the country today, something about biodegradable plastics as well and its usage. Little has been seen and heard about it about 2-3 years down the line. Have we been paying lip service to this problem over the years?
Quite frankly, I think the simplest answer I can give is most of the time we are waiting for government to do something. If we appreciate the problem, individuals need to start acting and also place demands on government. So in your own small way, you can decide to cut down on the plastics that you use until there's a solution provided. I mean, you don't need to take your drink with straw. You can take it from the glass. These are simple things you can actually do to reduce your plastic consumption. But when it comes to the plastic issue, I think it also has to do with change in government. One government might say, I want to do this, and then gets out of government, another administration comes in, then the conversation has to now start all over again. Every government has his or her own interests. So it's about identifying the problem, accepting the problem, and working towards a common solution that will satisfy both industries that are manufacturing plastics and the consumer as well.
Much as you say that it's a question of changing governments and policy and how we are not able to follow it through. Is that not the problem? That matters that go beyond politics and beyond the shelf life of governments are put in the election cycle?
Well, that is the reality. A big challenge and a big problem, and then yes, so that is where we find ourselves in the country. Mostly we in the civil service, like the NGOs, we don't want to go too much into political issues and other things.
Yeah, but you see, they are the ones that take decisions on policy.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. So that's why for yesterday's program, the whole idea was bring all the actors under one umbrella, under one roof, and then let's talk about it, and not just talk, but find a solution to the problem. And the solution should be both short and long term. It shouldn't end with one government. It should be an interest that will cut across whichever administration is in power. At the end of the day, it's the environment, and it's just one environment.
And it's for all of us. Okay, so yesterday at the meeting, was any clear decision taken on what to do going forward?
Well, let me say the minister gave some assuring statements. Let me put it that way.
But was it a decision or an announcement?
It was a decision based on another actor. Let me say he stated that through the program he has seen the need and the bigger issue, and then what, and he has been put there to find solutions to them. So he was dependent on, he stated that he was looking up to the GRIPE, is it Ghana KIPS or something, one industrial something that they are acting, is the Association of Ghana Industries, acting on plastics, working on them. And then he said he was looking up to them to show that they can really control the problem as they have stated, or they have assured him. And then he gave up to the end of this year. After then, he would go back to them and then seek for their advice and where they have gotten to. And if he thinks the problem cannot be solved at that level, then he wouldn't hesitate to make a move to sign for the ban of single-use plastics in the country.
So based on that announcement, and Sandy, let me come back to you on this one. Based on the announcement that was made by the minister, how willing, able, and active would you be in following through this promise, and what ought to be done?
Okay, thank you very much. So we've not stopped. What we also want to do is we are going to give a press statement Friday. Friday is World Oceans Day. It still talks about plastics. So most of the commemorative days, we keep on talking about it. And one of the things we are also doing, the radio shows, we will keep on talking about it. We want to work with celebrities. We want to work with everyone who is willing and is concerned about the environment. And we believe in the power of the ordinary Ghanaian. When they identify and accept the problem and they want something to be done about it, I believe government will respect their decision. So we really want to work with governments as well as the ordinary Ghanaian.
Okay, and I'm sure we will all help in following through in ensuring that what is promised, we're able to see it through, and for what it's worth, reduce how much of a problem plastic has become on us. We virtually use it for everything, including even the breakfast I've been given this morning. Truth is, this disposal is a problem, and we don't talk enough about recycling in this country of plastic waste. Maybe that will be a topic for another day. But let's return to wildlife. Okay, how diverse are the wildlife species that we have in this country today?
Wow. It's like asking me how many drops of water do we have in the ocean? We have, in simple terms, so diversity is talking about how many, like the varieties we have around. So just so our public are aware of what we are talking about. So that's the simple answer I can give you. Going into details, we will break it down into fauna, that's the animals, and then flora, the plants. So when you go there, you have thousands of species, and I don't mean population. I mean each species can have millions as a population. So we have so many, and it differs from one vegetation type. When you go to the forest, you have different types of species there. When you go to the savannah, you have different types. Even in the ocean, we have different types of fishes there. Yes, so they are very diverse.
In Ghana?
In Ghana, very diverse. We
Let
are
me ask
blessed,
this.
actually.
Okay, based on what you just said, you just piqued my interest. So do we have a database of all the species of wildlife in this country? An up-to-date database?
Unfortunately, we are trying to connect all the databases we have. So some have data that they've collected as institutions. So when it comes to Ghana Wildlife Society, we have possibly the largest database on birds. And then you go to another institution, they may have, their interests may be different from ours. They may be working on amphibians.
On fish and
so
all
now
things,
we are trying to consolidate all these data. But then the truth of the matter is we still keep on discovering new species. So what we claim to know, we are trying to update. We have something called IBA, Important Bird Areas. So as often as every 5 years, we try to update the data on the important bird areas. That's the only way we can know if things are reducing or if new things are being added to the list.
Okay. Mr. John, let me come to you at this point. What's the rarest animal species we have in Ghana today?
It depends on where we are coming from.
What taxa?
Yes, like we
Okay, so what is the rarest animal species we have in Ghana?
No one single species can be mentioned. Otherwise, I would have said the Tabutiela.
Please speak in the mic.
I would have said the Tabutiela species, which is a plant species, which can be found in, so far it can be found in only Ghana. Throughout the world, we can only find it in Ghana, so it's an endemic species. So when you talk of endemism, then you mean where a species that is restricted to a geographic area.
One geographic area.
And in Ghana, you can only find it around the eastern high ranges, around Yongwa, Saposu, Bandai Hill. So about a few forests and the glowing colonies. So if you count the population or the number of that species, which we have no other subspecies, then I would have said it is the rarest species.
Okay.
But that said, there are so many species that are facing several threats that may need attention. You can talk of the Picatatis as well. I didn't mention that because...
Okay, but for the first one you mentioned, you just mentioned the name to us, but what is it?
Tabutiela is a plant species. It's commonly known as Takrowa.
Takrowa.
Sure.
What is it used for?
And yes, I was coming to that. Takrowa, where it means in the local language of the eastern region, that is the Krobo and then those areas. It's known as Takrowa, which means a charcoal tree. It's known for its best charcoal produced in the country. And then over the years, it has been exploited for charcoal to the extent that it is highly threatened. So it's commonly used for charcoal production.
Okay, so to add to what he's saying, what is the rarest species will depend on the individual who is talking about it.
Okay.
So based on my background, I'd rather go for the giant squeaker frog. You see, so there's no one answer to that question.
In Ghana, we have no clear answer.
There wouldn't be one answer. So if you ask someone who may be a primate specialist, he will also look at the apes, because that's where he knows he can find one. So I'll talk about the giant squeaker frog, because we can do searches 5 continuous years, you'll not even find one. But that does not mean that they are not in abundance. You just cannot find it.
Giant what?
The giant squeaker frog actually is very tiny. It's not giant.
So why is it called giant today?
Because amongst the it's scientific, the genus is the biggest amongst the species that belong to that that group, the genus. That's the biggest.
But it's still small.
But it's still small.
So there are some smaller than that one.
Very small, very tiny.
Interesting. And how important are they in the scheme of things?
Oh, for me, every species that you find on Earth is part of the food web. That's the first thing everybody needs to know. If you take it away, you are taking away somebody's food, another species' food, and you are also giving the opportunity for lower species that species was feeding on to increase. And so you one or the other may not be creating an imbalance in the ecosystem. Yes, exactly.
Okay. And is this becoming rare because people are chewing a lot more of these frogs?
For that giant squeaker frog, it's too tiny for you to even be interested. You will find it difficult catching it anyways.
Or is the one that preys on it as a species killing them a bit more?
Being rare does not necessarily mean that something is feeding on it. It's probably the lifestyle. It prefers maybe certain areas. It prefers coming out at certain times of the day. When we scientists, even when we structure our research to try and match their lifestyle, you still find it difficult finding them.
Okay.
It could, sorry. It could also be due to the the change in land use. Formerly, we could say that most of our areas were forested, and then now the quality of forest, the size of forest, and everything is reducing. So species that cannot so easily adapt would have to lose out. That also accounts for the reduction in some species. But let me just chip in this. Talking about the reality of animals, we all once saw the numbers or the amount of vultures we could in Ghana, especially in Accra. You wouldn't walk a meter or two without seeing a vulture. But now, just try to do this. See how many vultures you can count coming from your home to the office, and then compare it to 10 years' time. So you may think one species are so many, but before you realize, because nobody is thinking of it because of its abundance, before you realize it has reduced drastically. Now the vulture is critically endangered. That is the last stage. From there, we are going to extinct in the wild, and we might not find it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can the same also be said for, often, usually in the rainy season, you hear a lot of frogs croaking after it rains. You don't hear that often these days, do you? As often as you used to?
It depends. You still hear toads when it rains in the big cities.
Yeah.
But then for frogs, we have forest specialists and those that are savanna. So when you go into the forest, once we still have the forest intact, you will still find some of these forest species.
You find them there.
Yes, but then when there's land use change, then you find those that love staying in the dry and dirty areas, moving into a once pristine area. So when you start seeing some of these frogs, then you know there's something wrong with the environment.
I see. Interesting things I've learned this morning, especially with the one you mentioned, the eastern area. In the eastern region, it's called
Tabotiela.
Takrowa. Okay, 27 minutes past 9 right here on Morning Star. My friends from the Ghana Wildlife Society have joined us for a conversation about the work they do, and in recognition of the World Environment Day, we're looking at how poor management of plastics is not only affecting us but the wildlife around us. Sandro Usujemfi and Thomas Jima, researchers at the Ghana Wildlife Society. Time for us to pick up our science fun fact for today, and then we will continue with our conversation. Here's our fun fact for today.
If plastic pollution is not curbed, the amount of plastic waste will outweigh fish in the ocean by 2050.
All right, so that's our fun fact, our science fun fact for today. Let's return to our conversation this morning. So, Sandy and Thomas, help me here. What are you doing as a body to develop an interest and conservation in nature?
A lot. I'll say some, and then Thomas can continue. Where maybe I might miss.
Yeah.
So, you know what we say: catch them young, and they shall be yours forever.
Yes.
I'm sure most people have heard of the wildlife clubs in primary, in junior high, and the senior high schools, and some of you might have been members of the wildlife clubs. So that is one way we try to help society, especially the young ones, appreciate and be stewards of the environment. So we train them, we give them the necessary tools they will need to build their capacities when it comes to taking care of the environment. And we also try to give back to society by organizing what we have as monthly bird walks. So it's a free program where we take anyone who is interested in watching or learning about the beautiful birds in Ghana. We take them out for free, and then they have fun.
I see, one of the best ways in helping to improve interest for many is the zoos. The zoos today, correct me if I'm wrong, they've actually gone.
Well, I have my reservations about the zoo. So
Okay.
No, it's not just him. We all have our reservations about this.
Animals, like human beings, are supposed to live in their comfort zones. They were made to live in the forest. So the zoos were originally a kind of, should I say, rehab or a reproductive center.
Ex-situ conservation.
Good, ex-situ. So where you find the species, or you find the last pair, or you see that these species have reduced drastically, that if nothing is done, they will be gone forever. Then the last 2 or 3 you keep them in the zoo, you give them the necessary attention, everything with the intention of reproducing them and releasing them back to
society. Yeah,
that is how a zoo is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But here in our terms, it was kind of we've kept animals and people will go and see
for amusement
without the core reasons or the core intentions portrayed to people.
I see.
So I have my reservations about zoos, and I have never supported the zoo system. I would only support it when I see this species needs this kind of attention that it would only get in the zoos.
Okay. Sandy, you had your own reservation too?
Yeah, I support what he just said. Actually, when you have it's like exhibiting some race of human beings for the amusement of another race. That's how we have to look at it from. And imagine having the largest space you are free to roam, like a bird who is allowed to roam freely in the world.
Okay.
Being caged in, I don't even know how big the place is, but you are restricting an animal that actually should be allowed to freely roam in a big or larger space.
Let me rephrase. So, ecological parks and conservation areas, is that much better?
Sure.
Does that work better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like we have in Kakum. So if you are interested in seeing the animals, apart from the canopy walk, if you are interested in finding animals, then you stay back. And then you get a guide who will take you there.
Yeah.
And then it's also restricted. You know the number of people who can go at a time, so you don't disturb them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
A little to add to the question you asked. Without the zoo system being effective, like you said, the eco parks, the forest reserves, the game reserves, the strict nature reserves are there to protect species. Where you find a specific species or a group of species you think they need the protection or of interest, then the Wildlife Division will steps in and try to create kind of protection in them. Though we have several stages of protection, the Wildlife Division has this interest of production, and then all of them are called forest reserves, so we don't see the difference in them. But we have those that are protected for wild animals. Those ones are done by the Wildlife Divisions. Those are the strict nature reserves, the game reserve, game production centers, like the Shire Hills, the Ankasa, we have the Kapun. Yes. But where it is done by the Forestry Division for production, then their motive is that let's protect this forest. After a certain number of years, we harvest the trees, we leave it for another years, and then we reharvest. That is how it goes. But if these systems are working very well, and then they are well protected as they should be, then most of these species we are talking about today will not need to land up in the zoos. They can still rehabilitate themselves in the forest reserves.
So, do you have any data regarding how Galamsey is affecting wildlife in Ghana?
Well, let me say, I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say.
So, do you have the data or not?
And that is why I wouldn't say no, but I cannot say yes. We have a lot of data that can be linked up with Galamsey, but we've not set out to say we are looking at impact of Galamsey on this wild animals. But in our day-to-day activities, like the B4C project that is building capacity for climate adaptation, it has ended though, but there was a component of it was trying to find out how people are coping with the Galamsey in their area, and then what they perceive to be the impact of Galamsey. So we gathered data on that was linked with Galamsey. We've worked with the Newmont's gold mine several times, and then we've gathered data that is linked with the mining sector and also Galamsey area. So you try to compare the two. You are mining legally. You have all the systems in place. How are biodiversity protected in your area? And it will surprise you to know that it is a mining area. I wouldn't want to mention the name, but I can because it's positive. In Takwa Gold Fields, we saw the African golden cat, which is a very rare species. It's hardly seen even in the some of the forest reserves, but it was there. It feels safe because their laws are working. You can't kill an animal in our premises and everything, so they are working. But when you go to the Galamsey system, where you take your gold, you leave the field uncovered, a lot of animals die. The animal may be roaming about. That is the normal terrain. It doesn't know there's been a hole. It falls in, it wouldn't come out, even to the extent that human beings can fall in. And believe you me, most of our forest reserves in Ghana, I wouldn't mention any forest reserve, but most of them have Galamsey holes, whether recently or formally still existing in them that is posing threats to human life, because people do roam in this forest a lot. Researchers, hunters, everybody goes in there. You can fall a victim of them. So I think we have data and we know the impact of these activities on wildlife. I would mention an example. The Perch fishing owl is an owl that comes out in the night to fish, and it depends on turbidity of the water, that visibility. It needs to see the fish in the water, dive down and pick it up. So once the system is the turbidity is very high, it reduces visibility, and this species is already threatened. So as we keep, formerly it was seen along most of the rivers in the western region, but now you hardly find one because of the turbidity. How turbid? I don't want to use that term. How should I say
Cloudy,
dirty?
let's say cloudy.
Yes, because of the mud mixing up of the water.
How dirty it is.
Yes, how dirty the water is. The bird does not see its food in the water. It dies out of starvation. Yes, so galamsey is really affecting wild species. Plants, yes, you need to clear before you dig. Let me cite an example. We were doing a research in Atiwa Forest where we are all talking about. We were monitoring plots. One of our plots, a 50 meter by 50 meters, about 75% of them was bare, lost to galamsey. The biggest tree on it has been falling, so which tree will still survive? Just to pick tiny goals they will get. As to whether they will get or not, they've just fallen to look for what they will get. And then they themselves attest to that. You can dig a whole day without getting anything, but the damage you cause to the structure or the environment, you don't repair.
It's immense. Once you mentioned the Tiwa, you just reminded me of something that I may have missed. Last year, we had government, and to be specific, the vice president talk about moves to have parts of our concessions for bauxite exploration in the Tiwa area. For you as a wildlife society, what do you make of this intervention, going to mine in such a forest reserve?
So let me come in. That's why for us as an organization, we have to spell out some of the negativities to government. And time in and time out, we've been telling government that, look, Atiwa is supplying 5 million Ghanaians plus with drinking water. I mean, it's hard getting water already. And some of the people are actually living in Accra. Why would you want to gamble with this headwaters? And aside from that, I mean, we have other avenues. You can look at several other avenues, like promoting ecotourism. Is one of the only 2 upland forest reserves we have in the country. And if you can actually find ways of harnessing the ecological importance of this area, I'm sure it can give you money, even if it's not going to be the same amount you'll be getting from bauxite. You know you are going to get it every single day, for a very long period of time. Bauxite will be but for a short period of time. So we've been campaigning very much, and I'll take this opportunity to say kudos to all our partners, including Arusha Ghana, for helping us with this campaign, and we will not stop. We want to make sure that Atiwa is protected.
And so far, do you think government is listening?
We will keep on fighting. We will not stop fighting.
Okay.
A little to add to what he said, we came out with a position paper some time ago declaring the stance of GWS when it comes to Atiwa Forest. I think I'll get a copy for you. You read and you know that GWS is entirely against the mining. A little to add to what you said about the importance of the forest, saying is the one of the only 2 upland forests. Now the other one is almost gone. That is Tanofin, which is almost gone. Lost to galamsey, lost to farming, logging, and a lot more. It's also another area for mining that the government has targeted. This said, if both forests goes, then we have no such forest in Ghana.
And that will have a great impact on water supply as well.
Not only water supply, let me also come from the wildlife point of view. We have a lot of endemism in that forest. Talking of the Togo slippery falls, talking of we have this
Atiwa butterfly.
Atiwa dotted border is also a butterfly that can be found only in that forest. We have a lot of bears and other things that you can find them and only there. We have the cycad, a lot of insects and other things. So are we going to say we are making the entire world, not only Ghana, because that is, when we talk of endemism, that is the only place they can be found. Are we going to let the world lose these assets to bauxite? That is the question.
The question is, how much value is the local economy actually going to get when you allow bauxite mining in these areas? How many of the youth are going to be employed in the bauxite mining? You can look at other case studies where we've had,
example.
and you more often than not you find foreigners actually doing some of these things, or even being at the realm of affairs like the management, and then the youth within the community, they are more like, yes, exactly.
Okay, let's return to Accra. The most abundant bird I see are those birds typically found around choke drains and so on. Are they widespread all over the country now?
Are you referring to the cattle egrets? Which of the white ones? There are several white birds.
For me, I can't tell. For you, the wildlife folks, you know the name for it.
The long bill.
Yes.
That is the anyway, there are a lot of white birds with long bills, but the commonest one, as you are stating, should be the cattle egret. That is the commonest bird you see around with the white color and the long bill.
Yes.
Around drainages, and it's a cosmopolitan bird. Can be found everywhere in the country. Going up to the north, way down to the south, it can be found anywhere.
They are not extinct, are they?
No, they are in large quantities. But even to say that, I think I see a lot more of pied crow compared to that bird. What do you make of the pied crows? There are so many everywhere that people can also see.
Can see.
So,
okay, that's fine. I know a lady too who is studying small mammals that live on Afajato on a national scale. How relevant is this?
Studying small mammals.
Yes.
At Afajato.
Yes.
And so
that live on Afajato.
Sorry?
Small mammals that live on Afajato.
That live at Afajato. Okay. So, like we said, so data is collected in remote areas, and then you collect the data to give you the national, what is happening at the national level. So whatever it is she is looking for, every species she's looking for, with regards to small mammals specifically, is important to national, the national database.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's come back to the matter to do with plastics and how it's affecting wildlife. Tell me about it. What's the correlation between plastics and wildlife today?
Okay, so I'll look at, I'll talk about turtles, then maybe if Thomas wants to talk about something else. So with turtles, when, most of the plastics we use inland end up in the ocean. So when they do, the plastics, especially the carrier ones, turtles feed on jellyfish. And when they see them floating on the water, they actually mistake it for jellyfish and then eat it. And when that happens, it blocks their guts. So they are not able to feed and then let their guts take in food. You are killing it. Another option is for the very tiny, some fragments, so they can be hard plastics. When they fragment and they consume these plastics, what happens is it starts piercing their guts, as well as when they are in their guts for too long, some chemicals leach into their system, their tissues, and this has a lot of negative impacts. The eggs they lay, the egg shells become thin, which shouldn't be the case. And then also when we have plastics on the beaches, they come on land to lay their eggs. They are wired in such a way that it is mind-boggling. We don't understand how they are able to know exactly where their moms, where they originated from. So if their mother laid them at Sakumono, they will come back to Sakumono even after they've been in the sea for years and roaming at different places. They will still come back to Sakumono. And now what happens is, after they've been away for all these years, they come back and the beaches are just full of plastics. And what that means is when they now have to find a place to lay their eggs, they have to struggle in the plastics. There have been instances where some have had to go back because they couldn't part through the plastics. That's what we found.
I see. So just so I'm clear, you're saying that for these turtles, when they're supposed to lay the eggs, they are one place where their mothers did.
Yes.
And so if they don't find that space, it's difficult for them to.
Surprising. I don't know why they are wired that way, but they know their hometown, if I can put it that way. They still go back to where they originated from.
I see. What's the other effects as well of
not only
plastics?
to turtles, any other seabed? Instead, it's said that every seabed or every bed on the sea has one in its lifetime swallowed plastic. And what it does to them is some of them, they get so many of them in their stomach, and because it's not digesting, it cannot be passed out as feces. Their intestines get blocked and they die out.
Wow.
That is one. Some of them, the nanoplastic I'm talking about, it can get through the system, and then we call something bioaccumulation. It will store it. When another organism feeds on it, that organism gets it in a higher dose, and it can be transferred to humans. Because we understand when it gets to humans, that is where we see the case.
Yeah.
But then fishes are not spared out.
Yeah.
We have filter feeders. Some fishes, some animals in the sea, they just open their mouth for every water to pass through. Any other organism in the water that passes through is trapped in the gut. The water comes out, and that is how it feeds. So being it plastic, being it any other thing at all, gets into it. The system might be able to digest or get through the blood system. We catch the fish, served on our table, and then it comes back to our human race.
So there's every chance that for any of us for anybody who's listening to us this morning who may be consuming fish, there's a chance you've eaten fish in the last 1 month or two which has a component of plastics in there.
Yes.
Exactly. So.
And these are not like plastics you can easily see and then take out of the fish. They are very micro. Actually, there was a research. I don't know if ocean plastics is open to the public, but when you see the ocean very clear, they actually picked the water and they were able to actually find the micro plastics. It looked very clear, but then after sifting through, going through lots of filters, they were able to trap the micro, and these are what are getting embedded in the fish.
Wow, that's serious.
Not only fish, some birds feed on fish, some animals feed on fish. They get it in higher dose, that is bioaccumulation. I'm the first organism, I get 1 gram of it. In my system, I don't die. You feed on it, you get about 2 grams of it. So as it moves up the food chain,
It gets
a
higher.
human being is at the top of the food chain. So
Yes.
it gets to our system, we are getting multiple doses of certain. So we might be eating a cat, civet cat, genet cat, other cats, which has also fed on a fish or something else that had the plastic in him, and you are also feeding on it.
Okay.
So not only the fish feeders.
I may not be a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just thinking long and hard enough on this one. Based on what you just explained, does that feed into the narrative about how many people today are getting all forms of cancer that cannot be explained?
We are not going to talk about some of these things because we don't have the proof.
The
to
evidence
talk
to
about
show.
it. Yes.
That's why I said
Yes.
I may not be a
But then
conspiracy
there are
theorist.
so
but-
many things we can't explain.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some 50 years back, it would have been strange to find people dying at the age of 40. Everyone was expected to die at least at the age of 70, but
Yeah.
now it's becoming very common. I think
Even in
that
30s too.
exactly. So there may be multiple reasons for this. It could be one of the reasons. We still need to look into that.
Okay, so the Achimota Forest, if it's turned into an eco park, what will be the implication for wildlife conservation and tourism?
I think both of them will benefit.
How?
So the animals that are in will get their protection, and then we'll also be making money as a nation. But Thomas may have his
Yes,
own
but
opinions.
personally,
On this one.
I think I oppose. I'm not in favor of turning it to an eco park.
It should be left as a forest.
Sure. In that, it is the only inland forest we have in Accra if you want to go around it. And then, being it this way, there are a lot of undergrowth and a lot of other things that is slowing down the water that pours on it. So it slows the flow rate of water and a lot of them. Before it gets to the streets and other things, the rate at which it's coming is reduced. Even that we have this, look at the floods in Accra. So clearing this, that we have no plant or no tree that is going to block that. I'm not saying they are going to read everything, but being it eco park, a lot of people are going to go there, a lot of activities building, and a lot of things are going to be there with this associated waste, like we are all talking about. So it's rather going to increase the flooding in Accra and a lot of things in Accra. So for me, I'm not in favor of the
idea of an eco park.
Yes. But then, that said, should it come on, if proper measures are put in place, which I even think cannot be mitigated or cannot be the same as it is, Well, we will get a revenue. We will get, people can get a place to at least store.
Yeah, I mean,
things,
when you are talking about the zoo, I mean,
that?
it will be an opportunity for also research activities. It will also be an opportunity for people who are in the metropolitan centers and have not been able to see certain species to be able to see the species.
The question is,
this is my personal
opinion. How many of these species are not shy of human? How many of these species, even now there, will still be there? Should it be converted to that? You can talk of the rats, the rodents, which they may be there because they can live everywhere. But what about the, let me say, the antelopes and the other things? Will they still survive? Unless you try to import them, you try to give them other protection, which you change their behavior. Because once you get an animal out of its home,
natural habitat,
sure, you've changed the behavior. You cannot study it to know what it does when it is in the wild. So if you come to me and say, well, I've studied an animal in the zoo, this is how a monkey behaves, I'll tell you you're kidding. Because its habitat has been changed, and it's trying to adapt. So it's trying to live in a new environment, and all that it does in the wild, you will not find them.
Okay. I've got to ask this just before we end our conversation this morning. Much as we talk about animals in their natural habitat, what do you make of how human beings today, and specifically here in Accra, in Ghana, how would you describe the relationship we have with animals? Do you respect them and their rights, or we just feed heavy and consume and just walk away?
I think the simplest answer is we don't. But then I will not blame anybody. In the sense that when you go to other countries, what they do is part of their educational, it's part of their curriculum. So right from infancy, you are made to appreciate nature. It's an everyday thing. You see animals, you appreciate animals. Sometimes you see them and you don't even ask further, where are they going to? How are they living? Are my activities or my actions affecting them anyway? So I think it's one, ignorance and lack of respect for them because we are not aware of their importance.
I see.
I will not blame people. But for those who know and they are not doing it, I cannot excuse their decision not to care about.
So, for instance, for those who consume pets, like cats, like dogs.
Well, you know, I don't think this is rocket science. We know they control certain species or things that may not necessarily be wanted around us. Like the cats will control your minds. Why would you want to eat the cats? You know, you are just giving room for mice to come around, and then you have something called bubonic plague. Some of these mice actually carry some of these diseases. So you have the cats driving them away. Like I said, everything is here for a purpose. It needs to be regulated how you do it.
Should our mindset begin to change now, based on what you just explained, that maybe it's time the education minister, the environment minister sit down and say, look, animal rights are important. We should begin to look at it seriously. Should we get to that point?
Yes. I don't think we need to even tell anybody this is what you have to do for the nation. It should be part of everyday thing. You know, some people actually, I know some kids actually throw stones at lizards and then frogs. Again, they are ignorant. They don't know why they are doing it. They just kill for fun. But at the end of the day, these things are there. They are controlling the mosquitoes in the environment.
Which one? The lizards?
Lizards feed on flies. Frogs feed on mosquitoes. So you need to just let everything live. Even the snakes, let them be.
What are the wall geckos too?
Wall geckos also feed on the insects. Well, what we call the Kaniamoa and all those, when they come out, just observe. That's one of the simplest way to see how they live.
Okay.
When it rains and those flies come out, just observe them.
I see. Interesting.
Let me a little disagree with Sandra here.
On which one? The animal rights?
No, I think
no, I don't want to pardon anybody for not knowing you have to kill an animal. Throwing stone at somebody, you obviously have to know the person has feeling and the person will feel. And on the other ground, to disagree with her about people who eat pets or, well, what you call pets depends on you. I have a pet as a pet, and maybe a chicken as my pet. Shouldn't I eat it? You might have a cat as your pet, but you think I can eat my chicken, you cannot eat yours.
No, you made
So
mention specifically of cats and dogs,
Anyway,
so I was using them as
okay.
my example.
So for me, animals that are reared in the house, cattle, everything can be eaten. But what I think sometimes I find it a bit difficult to understand is the way we make animals go through pain before they are killed. When you look at how they transport these cattle from the north to the south, and those are what I just can't. I begin to think, don't people have feeling? Or don't they think they can feel pain as we also feel? So these are some of the things we should have passion for animals. We should also begin to think that they feel the same way we feel. And when you're doing anything to an animal, you think twice before you do that.
Okay, just before we end our conversation, let me quickly ask, what would you say is the real value in the conservation of nature? That's to close our conversation today. What's the real value in the conservation of nature?
Conservation of nature, let me say nature is priceless. You can't put any value on wild species or any other thing. But when we conserve them, we know we are improving our tourism in Ghana. We know we are giving the scientists way to study. You need to research it. We know we are protecting our food security, because animals are on, then biodiversity are still in the food chain, so we are protecting our food security. We know they protect us. They are giving us aesthetic value, comfort, passion, and everything we have. So their value is priceless.
Let me just conclude by saying that if you don't understand why an animal is around, that doesn't mean it's not important. Let it be. If tomorrow you find out that you can actually get the cure to HIV from a mosquito, would you want to even kill a mosquito? Let's just try to respect nature, because remember, you came to meet nature. Nature did not come and meet you.
Interesting. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Sandro Sujenfi and Thomas Jima, researchers at the Ghana Wildlife Society. I'm sure you've learned a lot today based on the conversation that we've had and the need for us all to be a part of conserving nature today. Time check, 3 minutes to 10 right here on Morning Star. Oh boy, I'm out of time. But before I say goodbye, everyone is talking about it. MTN Ghana is offering its shares to the general public. It means you too can own shares in Ghana's #1 network. Get your MTN Ghana shares and invest and share in the growth of Ghana's biggest network. A network built by Ghanaians and for Ghanaians. The offer is open till the 31st of July 2018. Buy your shares at 75 pesos per share. Shares must be purchased in multiples of 10 with the minimum purchase